When you think about Hokages, you might think of Hashirama or maybe Naruto, but Tobirama is arguably the most influential Hokage in the history of Konoha. Every single plot point could be tied back to him, and the reason why Konoha was such a mighty force at the beginning of the series when we started the show is directly because of Tobirama and his competency. Let's start with Tobirama's legacy in Konoha. After the end of the war, Hashirama, who is the strongest, became the first Hokage, but really his advisor and his little brother Tobirama was the brains behind the political ideologies of Konoha, being that strong hand that stops his brother from putting their village in a weaker position compared to other villages, frankly because of his trust issues. But it proved to be beneficial in the future because he ended up being right. Now for his contribution as Hokage. He set up systems that were so good, they were implemented by other villages and they lasted the test of time because they were still active during the time of Boruto. He started with formalizing Konoha's government, like giving Uchihas the police, just setting up the structure of the government, created the Ninja Academy to foster the future, established the Chunin exams to foster the growth of the young ninja and to build alliances between villages, and he established the ANBU. Asterisks on the ANBU because we'll get back to that. But these structures that he put in place were very important in defining the path that Konoha would take in the future. Tobirama also contributed a lot when it came to knowledge, jutsu, and warfare. It sounds like all the forbidden jutsus might have been created by him, but some jutsus in particular that I want to point out include the flying Raijin, which is the jutsu that the fourth Hokage uses, the Edo Tensei, which was the final jutsu that was the most important part of the last ninja war, and the creation of the shadow clone jutsu, obviously because our MC uses that jutsu all the time and it became his signature move. These three jutsus have been directly related to major events that happened in the show, but that's not all the influence that Tobirama's knowledge had on the show. Let's talk about his student lineage. Tobirama was the sensei of the third Hokage and Danzo, and if you look at the third Hokage's lineage, she was the sensei of Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Jiraiya was the sensei of Minato. Minato ended up being the sensei of Kakashi all the way down to Naruto. So you could say that Tobirama's ideologies were passed down through his teachings, through his students, all the way down to Naruto, and it was because of Tobirama's ideologies that the fate of the Uchiha clan ended up the way it did. But just the fact that the subsequent Hokages that came after him were either his students or students of his students shows the amount of influence that Tobirama had in the Naruto world. Now, let's talk about how he caused the major plot points and story arcs in the show, starting with the Uchiha, which is the most obvious, right? Tobirama always had great mistrust of the Uchiha. Understandable. For most of his life, he fought them in the war, and Madara is quite literally the most evil person in the world, in his opinion. But it didn't just stem from that. He believed that the source of the Uchiha's power, the Sharingan, came from an emotional point, and because of that, the extreme emotions that the Uchiha clan faces, like love, hatred, made them dangerous. And for that, he believed that they always had to be kept in a leash. So when Konoha was established, he put them in charge of the Konoha Police. On the surface, it was an important role, but this actually was a role that kept them away from leadership seats in the government and also kept them occupied and easy to be tracked. This little change started building a little bit of resentment within the Uchiha clan as they started to feel ostracized. And when Danzo came along with third Hokage, who were directly his students, believed in his ideologies, they pushed it further back or further ahead, making them even more ostracized and surveilled, which then led to the eventual civil war, which then led to Danzo, his student by the way, instructing Itachi, who was his ninja, to massacre everyone in his clan except his brother, which then eventually leads to Sasuke's whole character arc. I already spoke about the Edo Tensei, but yeah, he is the creator of the Edo Tensei, which was eventually used in the final war after it was perfected by Orochimaru. And then speaking of Orochimaru, this is Tobirama's greatest blunder, and that is appointing the third Hokage as his successor. Directly from his teachings, he put an incompetent leader in the third as the Hokage, which then eventually led to the war and to the death of the Uchihas. Anyway, we have a video on the third Hokage, so we're just gonna stop it at there. At the end of the day, to conclude this video, Tobirama's life and everything that he has done in his history shows why he's the greatest Hokage that came to Konoha. He was the reason that Hashirama's vision and dreams became real. His systems, jutsus, everything, students, everything that he had an impact and influenced the way the Naruto world operated. And that's the reason why I would say that Tobirama is the most influential Hokage and the greatest Hokage in Naruto.